Hi, I'm Katie Simmonds, Managing Associate at Womble Bond Dickinson.
And I'm Rebecca Keating, a barrister at Four Pump Court. And in celebration of Business Women's Day, Womble Bond Dickinson, Four Pump Court, and the Society for Computers of Law have teamed up to introduce you to a group of inspiring women working in law and tech.
And over the next couple of weeks, we'll be speaking with women from across the law and tech world who have carved out their careers, covering the private practice, in-house, public sector, and the judiciary.
These exceptional women will share their stories, advice, and explore challenges in these bite-sized videos. We do hope you enjoy watching these videos as much as Katie and I enjoy chatting with the speakers.
And on that note, we hope you'll also join us on the 22nd of September, which is International Women's Day, when we will speak with Triple Olympian Fran Halsall on the topic of big goal setting, challenge, and ambition. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Tara Cho, who is a partner in Womble Bond Dickinson US and leads the privacy and cybersecurity team. Tara, can you share a little bit about what you do and what a typical week may look like for you?
Yes. So my practice is solely dedicated to privacy and data security issues. And with that, I focus across sectors, but the most prevalent is probably in the technology sector, be it technology in healthcare or banking, et cetera, or just direct consumer facing, retail. So all of the work I do throughout the week is focused in typically novel questions within that space. Novel because the legislation is not yet caught up with the technology, or novel because the technology is just so new that these questions haven't been presented in quite the same way. A lot of that work is counseling clients on sort of strategies around proactive compliance with privacy and data security requirements. And then some of it is quite reactionary, so addressing consumer complaints, regulator scrutiny, or enforcement actions, responding to data breaches and similar types of events. But I'd say it's a little unique. It's becoming more common, but over the last decade of doing this has been fairly unique to have a practice that is solely dedicated to these types of issues. So I'm pretty narrowly focused in that regard.
And what is your favorite element of your job?
Well, the part I like the most is also the part that gives me the most heartburn and headache and loss of sleep, and that's the challenge of it. Like I mentioned, the area of law that I practice, particularly in the technology sector, is so new and changing, and there just aren't well settled laws or even cases that necessarily dictate how to address requirements in the technology space. And obviously the speed at which technology is developed, far exceeds the legislative process, where we're trying to build in controls around the innovation. And so the part I like the most is being at the front end of cutting edge technology development and life-altering devices, platforms, online experiences. All of that is the part I enjoy the most, and usually working with the people who are developing technology. They're very forward-thinking, progressive, and innovative, entrepreneurial people, which usually, again, comes with passion and drive. So it's sort of usually contagious for me to be a part of a project like that and jump on the ride and sort of see it through. So that's the part that I find so rewarding, trying to help people address legal requirements along the way without stifling their innovative process, and getting to see that work and roll out to development.
Did you always want to pursue a career in technology?
No, obviously growing up, I wouldn't have known what it was if you mentioned a privacy attorney or data security as a career. I, as a young adult, wanted to go into healthcare in some form or fashion. And when I decided to go to law school, I thought that I would definitely be a healthcare attorney. I wanted to work in-house for a hospital or a health system. And so sort of focused my studies in that way. But I think, as many attorneys would tell you, life sort of put me on a different path. I completed law school at one of the worst times in the economy in the US, which was quite challenging. So many new law school graduates were sort of grappling with what to do. Many left the practice of law altogether before even getting affairs started. I was really fortunate to get a job in-house in clinical research. And with that, I was continuing to do healthcare regulatory compliance issues, but really started to focus in on data privacy and new innovations in healthcare. And again, focusing first on the data privacy and security aspects that sort of necessarily went directly into technology issues and technology innovations. And I've always been sort of a technophile. I always like to have the latest and greatest technology to the extent I could afford it, and have been very interested in how those things work. So that's one thing I really enjoy about working in the technology sector, is seeing the latest and greatest innovations from great minds. And oftentimes they get the best of both of those worlds that I just mentioned, because the innovation in healthcare technology is, life altering and pretty amazing to be a part of, even if just a fraction. So that's how I ended up in the technology space. I also really enjoy talking with technology folks, whether it's, like I said, the people that have the initial idea or spark of innovation, to the people that actually architect new technology and design the security around it. It's always very interesting to be surrounded by those folks who are trying to achieve the development of these new technologies.
Tara, have you ever felt like an outsider in your career? And if so, what do you think caused this, and how did you overcome this challenge?
So I think most people have probably at one point or another felt a little out of place, or as an outsider within their career. As to what causes that, I have some guesses based on the research that I've read, and that being particularly a challenge for women. I think also, as a Korean American woman in a male-dominated legal industry and tech industry, it's easy to fall into imposter syndrome at points. But I've worked very hard to hone my craft and what I do, and to really try to build relationships. And my father, whom I mentioned, was a first generation Korean immigrant, and he and my mom were both educators and very focused on the value and importance of education. And one thing as a Korean immigrant that my dad always instilled in us was that in order to overcome oppression or discrimination, or even just what you're describing as feeling a bit like an outsider in any situation, is to combat it with being really focused and trying to be the best at what you do. So his view was that essentially, whether it's in your career or your general life interactions, if you are good enough at what you do, it would sort of look absurd to spectators or others within your organization to discriminate against you because of the value that you bring. And that's sort of a harsh way to look at it, but I've found over the last 5 years in particular, working in technology and the legal profession, a huge shift in my experience, not necessarily intentional, just that I think there are more women in higher ranking roles within companies, within technology roles, within legal departments. And for whatever reason, those are frequently the folks that I have really good working relationships with. Again, not something that I sought out or constructed, but I think statistically the numbers are shifting a little bit where there are more women in those roles, and they tend to, I think, if there is a good opportunity and the person is qualified, want to help foster the growth and development of other women within tech and within the practice of law. And I think that sort of unspoken ushering or mentorship has really helped the technology field overall. Certainly those issues continue, and I see imposter syndrome all the time, or just what I know has to be a challenging room to walk in and speak to if you're the only woman technologist there, you're the only attorney, the only person of color, whatever it may be. But I think universally people are waking up to this issue a lot more, and is certainly seeming less of an insurmountable obstacle. And so I hope that trend continues.
Tara, thank you very much for sharing your story with us today.